anonymous letters, hidden secrets, a suspicious death, and a mystery that still has no answers. In a world filled with noise, some stories are lost in silence, forgotten files, unanswered questions, lives that vanished without a trace. From the shadows of the past, these cases still whisper for the truth. Welcome to Cold Case Archives. The Circleville Letters, a small-town mystery that never ended. Intro: when secrets arrive by mail. Some crimes announce themselves with sirens and flashing lights. Others arrive quietly, folded in an envelope. No fingerprints, no return address, just typed words. In the mid-1970s, residents of Circleville, Ohio began receiving anonymous letters. They didn't demand money. They didn't threaten violence. They exposed secrets, affairs, private relationships, hidden behavior. The writer knew names, knew schedules, knew far too much. And whoever was behind the letters wasn't trying to scare the town. They were trying to control it. It was the mid-1970s, a time of rotary phones, carbon paper, and the trust that the person living 3 doors down was exactly who they claimed to be. The Circleville writer traded on that trust. They didn't use a weapon. They used knowledge. And in a small town, knowledge is the most dangerous currency of all. Chapter 1: A portrait of a town under glass. Circleville, Ohio. Population 13,000. A grid of quiet streets orbiting a courthouse square, surrounded by the flat, endless farmland of Pickaway County. Life moved at the pace of the harvest. It was the kind of place where your grandfather's reputation still mattered, where a divorce was a scandal, and where everyone knew who belonged to whom. This wasn't just a community, it was an ecosystem, delicate, balanced, and in 1976, a predator entered that ecosystem. Not one that stalked with claws, but with a typewriter key. Its goal wasn't to kill the body, but to poison the well everyone drank from. Chapter 2: The first envelopes, the poison pen. Imagine, you walk to your mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon. The sun is out. The birds are singing. Among the bills and catalogs is a plain white envelope. Your name is typed, no return address. Your thumb slides under the flap, and the world you know quietly cracks. The letters were surgical. They didn't shout. They whispered terrible truths. Your wife is seeing the foreman after her shift on Thursdays. The deacon drinks alone in his car before Bible study. The details were too precise to be guesses. The writer had been watching, listening, knowing. The instructions were always the same: confront, confess, stop. It was blackmail without a demand for money. The payment was chaos. The reward was control. Chapter 3: Mary Gillespie. The target. Mary Gillespie was the perfect target. A school bus driver is a figure of public trust, a daily witness to the town's most precious cargo, its children. She was a mother, a wife, embedded in the daily rhythm of Circleville. The letters zeroed in on her with chilling specificity. They accused her of an affair with the school superintendent, Gordon Massey. They named times, locations, the make of his car. They were sent not just to her, but to her husband Ron, to the school board, to her neighbors. The writer wasn't just accusing Mary. They were building a jury of the entire town, forcing a verdict in the court of public opinion. Mary's denials were met not with skepticism, but with more evidence, mailed directly to her doorstep. Her private life was being typed up and broadcast, one envelope at a time. Chapter 4. Ron Gillespie, Pressure in a Vacuum. For Ron Gillespie, the letters created an impossible prison. The accusations were about his wife, but the punishment was his. The anonymous phone calls were the worst. A voice, often disguised, would repeat the allegations, then hang up. No chance for argument, no outlet for rage. Just the echo of the accusation in a silent house. Investigators would later describe it as psychic terrorism. The goal is to make the target doubt their own reality, to see conspiracy in every glance. Ron, a man whose world was built on concrete things, a job, a home, a family, was now battling ghosts. His frustration curdled into a desperate need for resolution. He needed a face to put to the voice. He needed an end. Chapter 5. The Night Ron Left. The spent round the evening of August 19, 1977. The phone rings in the Gillespie home. Ron listens, his expression hardening into something silent and final. He tells Mary he's going out. He knows who's behind this. He's going to end it. He takes his H&R W22 caliber 9-shot revolver from its place, a utilitarian weapon not for show, but for a specific purpose. He kisses his daughter goodbye. The door closes. The taillights of his pickup truck bleed into the darkness of 5 Points Pike. Less than an hour later, his truck is found crumpled against a tree. The official report would state the cause: accident, single vehicle, speed factor. The world was asked to believe a man who left with a singular mission simply: drove off the road. But the evidence on the passenger seat told a different story. There lay the revolver, and when deputies inventoried its cylinder, they recorded a detail that would outlive any accident report: 8 live rounds, and 1 spent cartridge. A gun that holds 9, now holding 9. The math was perfect, yet it made no sense. He had left with a loaded weapon. He had not fired it at target practice. The single discharged round meant one of 2 things. The gun had been fired that night, or someone had placed a spent shell inside it. This one piece of ballistics became the Rosetta Stone for every theory that followed. The confrontation theory, the spent round, is the proof. Ron met his tormentor. A shot was fired, a warning, a struggle, a missed attempt. The crash was not an accident, but the violent conclusion to that meeting. The reloaded gun suggests he was prepared for, and perhaps initiated, a fight he lost. The torment theory, perhaps the true weapon was never the E22. It was the voice on the phone, the letters, the pressure. In this version, the spent round is a cry of frustration, fired into the Ohio night in a moment of rage against a ghost. The crash that followed was either a distracted tragedy or something more intentional. The tampered scene theory, the unsettling perfection of the bullet count, fuels this darkest idea. Could the scene have been staged? Could the spent round have been placed to mislead, to turn a murder into an accident, or to fit a narrative that would point away from the true killer? In this theory, the evidence doesn't document a crime. It is the crime. Ron Gillespie died on a quiet road, but the story of his death was written in the 9 chambers of a .22 revolver. The official report gave the town a conclusion. The spent round gave it an endless question. Chapter 6. The Sheriff and the Booby Trap. The case turns physical. With Ron gone, the letters grew bolder, more public. Crudely painted signs appeared along Mary's bus route, airing the accusations for every passing motorist to see. It was an escalation from secret shame to public spectacle. In August 1983, Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe decided to remove one such sign himself. It was a decision made out of duty, but it nearly became his last. As he pulled the sign from its post, a hidden mechanism triggered a .25 caliber pistol. The gun fired. The bullet missed. In that moment, the case transformed. It was no longer about poisoned words. It was now about a literal, physical snare meant to kill, and the gun was traceable. Chapter 7. The Evidence Room. Circumstance vs. Proof. The gun led them to Paul Freshour, Mary's brother-in-law. The connection felt too neat to ignore. The police search of his home yielded a detective's wish list: a typewriter, ink ribbons, stationery. The prosecution built a castle on this foundation. Motive family discord, means the materials, opportunity knowledge of the town. But look closer. The typewriter wasn't conclusively matched to the letters. No fingerprints were found on the booby-trapped mechanism. Paul had an alibi for some letter mailings. The case was a mosaic of circumstance, but when you step back, the picture was compelling. In the eyes of the law, sometimes a compelling picture is enough. Paul Freshour was arrested for the attempted murder of the sheriff. Chapter 8. The Trial. The trial was Circleville's drama of the decade. The prosecution painted Paul as a vengeful, meticulous plotter, a man so consumed by a family feud he waged a decade-long war of nerves. The defense chipped away at the certainty. Where is the direct proof? Where are the witnesses to him planting letters? You have a gun, but you do not have the writer. The jury deliberated. They weighed the town's collective trauma against the standard of reasonable doubt. In the end, the need for an answer, any answer, outweighed the lingering questions. Guilty. Paul Freshour was sentenced to 725 years in prison. The town breathed a sigh of relief. The ghost had been given a name and a cell number. Chapter 9. The Unraveling. Letters from behind bars. Then the impossible happened. The letters continued. Postmarked from different cities, mailed while Paul was behind bars. They taunted authorities. You got the wrong guy. They knew details only the true writer would know. The conviction didn't solve the mystery, it complicated it. Was Paul part of a duo? Had he trained a successor? Or was he, as he always claimed, a patsy? A convenient suspect framed by the real writer who was now mocking the system that failed. The prison walls around Paul seemed less like a containment and more like an alibi for the shadow still outside. Chapter 10. Portrait of a Ghost. The Writer's Profile. Let's profile a ghost. The Circleville writer was not a classic extortionist. They sought not money, but moral reckoning. This suggests a person of deep, twisted righteousness. They likely lived in or very near Circleville, possessing intimate, long-term knowledge of its residents. They were patient, organized, and derived satisfaction from the reaction, not the fame. Were they a scorned lover, a self-appointed guardian of morality, a person wronged by the community, extracting revenge by turning it against itself? The method: typewritten letters, intricate traps, points to a craftsman, someone who took pride in the work. This was their art form, the orchestration of ruin. Others believe he acted alone. Some believe multiple people were involved. No theory has ever been proven. The Paul in prison letters force us into uncomfortable theories. The accomplice theory. Paul had a partner. Once he was caught, the partner continued alone, either out of loyalty or to prove Paul's innocence, or to continue the game. The copycat theory. A disturbed individual, inspired by the notoriety, picked up the mantle. But the knowledge of specific, unpublicized details makes this unlikely. The frame theory. The real writer was always someone else. They used Paul's gun in the trap precisely to point to him. With Paul jailed, they continued, secure in their perfect deception. Each theory has its own dark logic. None lead to a clean resolution. Chapter 12. The Fallout. A town's trust shattered. The legacy of the letters wasn't a solved case. It was a broken social contract. Doors that once went unlocked now had deadbolts. Gossip, once a harmless pastime, carried the venom of suspicion. Could it be them? The town's identity shifted from a place of shared security to one of latent paranoia. For the Gillespie and Freshour families, the trauma was generational. They lived in a house of mirrors, forever wondering who among the familiar faces was the architect of their nightmare. Neighbors suspected neighbors. Rumors replaced certainty. Silence replaced honesty. The letters had reshaped the town. Chapter 13. Media attention. National outlets covered the case. The mystery fascinated audiences. Anonymous threats. A suspicious death. A questionable conviction. A silent writer. But attention never brought answers. The investigation's blind spots. It's often buried in the leads they didn't follow, the questions they didn't ask, and the witnesses they didn't believe. The Circleville investigation was a product of its time and place. It was largely reactive, responding to each new letter, each new escalation. The focus, understandably, laser-locked on the Gillespie-Freshour family feud. But in doing so, other avenues of inquiry were left dimly lit, or not explored at all. These aren't proof of conspiracy, but they are puzzles within the puzzle moments where the story could have turned. The witness they discounted. The night Ron Gillespie died, a witness came forward. They reported seeing a vehicle, a light-colored Chevrolet El Camino. A car-truck hybrid pulled over near the crash site around the time it happened. There was a man standing outside it. This wasn't just a random car. The El Camino was a specific, memorable detail. But here's where the thread frayed. The witness's account was reportedly inconsistent on minor points. In the push for a clear narrative, a single vehicle accident, a potentially crucial piece of the scene was filed away as unreliable. Yet, the detail persists. If Ron was lured out to a confrontation, the El Camino could have been the lure. Its presence suggests a meeting, not a solitary drive of despair. The spent shell and the missing forensics. Gunshot residue, GSR. Was Ron's hands tested for GSR? Standard procedure would seek to confirm if he had fired the weapon that night. If he had no GSR, the frustration shot theory collapses, and the tampering theory gains weight. The trajectory of a theory. If the gun was fired inside the car during a struggle or a moment of rage, there would be evidence. A bullet hole, a ricochet mark, blood spatter. The official accident report makes no mention of such damage. This silence subtly argues against the gun being fired in the vehicle at all, again pointing to a staged scene. The reload. The perfect count of 8 live, 1 spent. Who carries a single, loose, .22 cartridge to reload a gun immediately after firing it? It suggests a prepared action, not a panicked or emotional one. The booby trap. Gun in the paper. Paul Freshour was tied to the crime by the .25 caliber pistol used in the booby trap. It was traced to him, a slam dunk. But the investigation stopped at he owned the gun. The theft possibility. Was there any serious exploration of the gun being stolen from or borrowed by Paul without his knowledge? In a small town, access to a neighbor's or relative's shed isn't difficult. The purchase, who sold him the gun, when, why? A deeper dive into its history could have revealed other connections, other potential grudges, or confirmed it was securely in his possession the entire time. This was a surface-level link, never pressure-tested. The typer fallacy. The discovery of a typewriter in Paul's home was treated as a major breakthrough. But typewriters in the 1970s were as common as toasters. The investigation relied on a visual match by an expert, not the definitive fingerprinting of a typewriter, which involves unique wear patterns on individual letters. No direct forensic link, like a matching ink ribbon with consecutive text from a letter, was ever conclusively presented to the public. The typewriter was circumstance, not proof, yet it weighed heavily on the jury as the tool of the crime. The psychology, ignored. The writer displayed clear, diagnosable behaviors, a compulsive need for control, a grandiose sense of righteousness, likely paranoia. Was there ever a consultation with a professional criminal profiler during the initial investigation? Understanding that they were hunting not just a suspect, but a specific psychological profile, might have shifted focus from mere opportunity to behavioral patterns. Hindsight is the investigator's greatest tool and most painful curse. The El Camino, the forensic gaps, the unexplored possibilities around the gun, they aren't answers. They are shadows on the cave wall, suggesting a shape to the truth that the official flashlight never quite illuminated. The conviction of Paul Freshour provided closure, but it also may have closed the book on these alternative chapters. The real Circleville writer, whether Paul or another, exploited more than the town's secrets. They may have also exploited the natural human desire for a neat ending. Chapter 14. The Silence, an Unsatisfying End. Paul Freshour served his time and was released. He died in 2012, maintaining his innocence to the end. Mary Gillespie moved away. The letters eventually stopped, not with a bang, but with a whimper. No deathbed confession. No hidden diary discovered in an attic. The official files may be inactive, but the case remains open in the only place that matters, the memory of the town. In Circleville, the past isn't past. It's just waiting in a mailbox somewhere, silent. No new suspects were charged. The case remained unsolved. The letters stopped, but the questions remain. In Circleville, the truth was never delivered. Only the secrets were. And sometimes, in the quiet of an Ohio night, you can still hear the echo of a typewriter key, striking a blank page, ready to write the next chapter that will never be read. Some cases are never closed. Some questions remain unanswered, but every story deserves to be remembered. This has been Cold Case Archives.